All right, today's problem is the baker's dilemma. We're going to use linear programming to help solve this problem. All right, the problem goes as such. A baker wants to make brownies and sugar cookies, but he's running low on sugar and butter. Each batch of brownies uses 4 cups of sugar and 1.5 cups of butter. Each batch of cookies uses 2 cups of sugar and 3 cups of butter. The baker only has 520 cups of sugar and 420 cups of butter. For every batch of brownie that the baker sells, he makes $2 profit. For every batch of cookies the baker sells, he makes $1.80 profit. How many cookies and brownies should the baker make to make the most profit? This problem's kind of complicated. You have to use the graphs and use a little algebra to figure this out. So the first thing we're going to do is let's define the variables in this problem. So first of all, I'm going to use C for the number of cookies. And a variable is always the amount of something. It's not an object. It's always an amount or a number. It always represents a number. So number of cookies. And let's say B represents the number of brownies. Okay. In fact, I want to use a capital B here. I want to distinguish because I'm going to use these letters some more. I'm going to use a lowercase b for butter. That's for the amount of butter. And I'm going to use this lowercase s for sugar, amount of sugar. Okay, and I believe those are all the things we're dealing with in the problem. We're dealing with the brownies, cookies, butter, sugar. There are 4 limits or constraints in this problem. One is the amount of butter. And remember, we're dealing with brownies and we're dealing with the cookies. So we're going to use 1.5 cup of butter per brownie. And we're going to use 3 cups per batches of the cookies. But it has to be less than or equal to 420 because that's the amount of butter that you have total. It's 420. So it has to be less than 420 or equal to 420. Similarly, the amount of sugar. You have 4 cups of sugar per brownies. And you have 2 cups of sugar per cookies. And this has to be less than or equal to 520 because that's how much sugar you have left is 520 cups of sugar. Batches of cookies. C, the batches of cookies have to be greater than or equal to 0 because you cannot have a negative amount of cookies. So either you can have none or you can have more. Batches of brownies, same thing. It's going to be a positive amount. This puts us in the first quadrant when we graph. So these are our equations. And what you want to do is we're going to graph these. But first, let's look at the profit. Now that we have the variables defined and the constraints of the problem, we need to graph the inequalities and test the corner points of the solution. We're going to do that in a minute. But the profit, remember, it said you get $2 for the profit of the brownie and $1.80 per cookie. So that's our equation is P equals 2B. And we're going to use this at the end to see which gives us the greatest profit. But in order to do that, we're going to have to graph these inequalities. So you want to graph 4B plus 2C, but we're going to graph the boundary line first. And you also want to graph 1.5b plus 3c equals 420. We're going to graph those. And then you're going to shade below the line because the inequality was less than or equal to. When you do that, you're going to get this. Okay? Where I believe this is this equation here. And it's going to be shaded below. Is less than or equal to 420. But these are our corner points. Doesn't make sense to have 0 because you're going to get 0 profit. The one that makes sense is to try this one. And if you look at that point, this is going to be 80, 100. That means if I make 80 brownies and 100 cookies, let's see what that profit would be. So these are our other corner points, by the way. 0, 0, 0, 130, 80, 100, and 140, 0. And if you were to test that, remember this is our profit. You get 2b plus 1.8c. Obviously, if you put 0 in here, you get no profit. The biggest point is 80, 100. So that's going to give us our greatest profit there. And if you want to know what that exactly is, you're going to put 2 times 80 plus 1.8 times 100. All right, so you're going to get 160 plus 180. Just move the 0 over, the decimal over 2 places. So that gives us a profit of 340. So if the baker bakes 80 brownies and 100 cookies, he's going to maximize his profit. And that concludes the lesson for today.